Hello and welcome to the latest edition of This Racing Life. It's a Galway special and here's what's coming up.
Galway Plate didn't get to be as popular as it is by starting off cheap. I think the Galway Plate was a serious event.
And if you watch the crowds that come to Galway, I know there's some great festivals on, Punchestown, Leopardstown, etc. But Galway Racing Festival, there's something special about it for that particular week.
The Galway Plate and the Galway Hurdle worth 250,000 this year, up 50,000 euros. And every other day then the feature race is worth 100,000 euros, which is a big increase as well.
We've announced a very special Pat's Mullen Perpetual Trophy, so that's a project very close to our heart here in Galway.
It does bring so much to the community, and it's a marker in the calendar that we know good times are coming back.
So I'm a qualified medical scientist working at the University Hospital here in Galway.
Galway is steeped in history and one man who can tell us all about that is Brian Nolan. I was under the impression that the Galway Races started just over 150 years ago, but you reckon they started 100 years before that?
I do indeed. I'm actually from Loughrea. I do walking tours in Galway City, which you know about. But growing up in Loughrea, we grew up with a race course out the road, 3 miles over the road towards Portumna. And nowadays it's just a ruin of a ruined stand, a grandstand, which would have held probably 100 people maybe. But that was for the gentry. And they built it on a natural sort of amphitheatre where you had a 1 mile track. And 1780, quite a lot of squadrons of British troops were based here, cavalry squadrons and so on, because they were at war with France, of course, and 1798 and so on. So they, for their amusement, set up their track. 1780 they built a track at Knockbarron, is the name of the place. It was sponsored by the local landed gentry, the Burkes of Ballydugan, and they would have been the Clanrickard family, very wealthy landowners. And for 170 years they ran racing at Knockbarron. 1851 the railway track came from Dublin to Galway and changed everything.
that was a game changer, wasn't it?
It was a game changer.
Yeah.
Now your trainers in Dublin and Kildare and Tipperary could put their horses on a train and bring them right down. Initially to Loughrea, they'd get off at Athenry or at Timon and walk the horses over. Long walk, 12, 15 miles. Eventually, Galway City looked at this and said there's an opportunity here. And by 1868, they had built this beautiful track at Ballybrit.
So that was here, was it? That was the first, yeah,
at Ballybrit.
Yeah.
A natural amphitheatre, again, an old Norman castle right in the centre of it. If you watch the races, you'll always see that castle in the centre. The people in the city, there would have been 30,000 people living in Galway City, so that's immediately an audience. And then you're able to bring excursion trains from Dublin and from wherever, Limerick and Cork and so on, up to the races. And it made, I suppose, it democratised racing. It meant that it wasn't just a local event anymore, now it was a national event. And Galway rapidly capitalised on that. They went from a 2-day meeting all the way to 4-day and eventually to what we have today, a 7-day racing festival. Hugely successful, very important to the local economy, just as important back in 1868.
So the first meeting here then in the late 1860s, like how many people would have been here, do you think?
They reckon 20,000 people attended, and they would have walked out from the city.
Right.
Don't forget there was no public transport at that stage. The bulk of them...
Which is how far from the city out to here?
It's 4 miles.
Right.
4 miles. Nice.
Doable.
You'd have worked up at thirst, probably.
Right.
And of course, the whole area here would have been set up with hawkers and mobile bars, I suppose, and pop-up, whatever it would be, they would have had in 1870. And it would have been fun. Don't forget, you're after the famine. People who had survived it and hadn't yet emigrated or weren't going to emigrate were breathing a sigh of relief. You had the frenzy, if you want to call it this, of the Land League, who were agitating for land ownership reform. You had the gentry who were on the last heyday. Industrialisation had happened, a lot of them had gotten very wealthy. So there was a lot of money sloshing around, not necessarily in the poor people's pockets, but certainly it wasn't as bad as the 1850s when the famine had devastated most of County Galway. Yeah. So horse racing was more of a people pleaser. It was bread and circus for the great masses of potentially troublesome tenantry, but also for the landlord class, if you want to call it that.
And like, so Would the top trainers in Ireland, would they have sent the horses to Galway back then?
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely, and they were all, of course, Mr. This or Sir that, or would have been those days.
The prize money, was it obviously not as good as it is today, but was it good by comparison to other race
Well,
meetings at
you
the
know, the
time?
Galway Plate didn't get to be as popular as it is by starting off cheap. I think the Galway Plate was a serious event. It was sponsored by various lords, including Edward Martin. His father sponsored it, the founder of the Abbey Theatre. So lots of money here to Lyra Castle, and there were loads of other fairly well-to-do, including well-to-do Anglo folk who had come here, mostly part of the British administration. They were either military or their administration, and they arrived here and they retired here, able to buy an estate here in County Galway where they could hunt and shoot and fish and ride to the hounds and of course race. They couldn't afford that in Kent and Surrey and whatever it would be, but they could do it here.
Yeah.
So you had this nouveau riche coming in who I suppose set the scene for that wonderful event that became the Galway Races. Initially, as I said, 2 days in August. Nowadays, it's usually the last calendar week of July into August.
And that timing of the Galway Races, like it's always been thus, and that's at a time when the hay's just been in.
The hay
people have a
has
couple
just
of
been
weeks off.
saved. The first hard work has been done on the bog. You now have the turf and stooks drying, and you know what? It's time for that mini break before the real harvest happens in September. And then, of course, we all hit off to Listonvarna to drink the waters and get a match.
And as it's evolved through the years, like as you say, it started off as a 2 day, it's now 7 days, so the days got added. But people who were abroad, and as we know from then, lots of Irish have gone living abroad and working abroad, but a lot of them made Galway their kind of pivotal point around the year where they could come home for the Galway Races.
Absolutely, and they come from the four corners of the world. In fact, I was doing some research recently. We all know about President Joe Biden, how his ancestors came from Ballina and they came from Louth. Well, two of his eight
Right.
great-great-grandfathers came from Oranmore.
Right.
And they left from here and they went across to Pennsylvania. I think that's the sort of draw. People love where they come from, the roots, that the yearning. A native loves his savage shore. They come home to see the ancestors. They come home to see where they were from. They come home to visit their relatives nowadays. I lived in the States for 18 years and I never missed a Galway Races. That was my
So you were
holidays.
one of those
I
immigrants
was
who
one of
made
those,
your
went
focus.
away, you
Yeah.
know, oh, you'll never see him again. Well, I'll see you on Monday, Tuesday night for the country meet, you know, where the farmers, that was always the sort of definition. Monday and Tuesday you met all the neighbours from wherever you were from. And then, of course, Wednesday and Thursday you got down to the serious work of Ladies' Day and the Galway Plate. And then Friday and Saturday were kind of just tailing off. Sunday, if you really still had to go, you went on Sunday.
Galway Week is the highlight of the year for businessman Robert King.
When we were young, say from the age 7 or 8 up, it was always a big treat when the work was finished that you'd head to Salt Hill for the Galway Races. And over time that evolved into heading up to Ballybrit then. So I suppose my first memory going to Ballybrit, I was around 11 and 12. And then you moved on to when you were 16, you were able to put on a bet. And one of the first good wins was Kaiichi, which was a Dermot Weld horse. And at the time, it was always a safe bet to back Dermot Wells. And I think down through the years in Galway, Dermot Weld has always been very good to us punters. So I suppose moving on then, as a young teenager, you probably moved into when you were in your early 20s and you'd be going with the lads for good social occasion, and the whole Galway Festival has become more of a social occasion as well as the horse racing. And I think in fairness, the likes of Sinead Castley, the marketing manager there, and others before her, they've created this festival. So there's something for everyone in Galway in Race Week. Each day seems to have its own particular agenda or topic for that day.
Yeah.
So it could be the Ladies' Day, as we spoke about on Thursday, the weekend, the bank holiday weekend guys coming in at the weekend, and then there's just the die-hard racegoers that start off. They do the Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and that's it, and leave it at that.
And of course you've experienced all the different aspects of it, from going as a kid to going as a young fella going racing to now entertaining corporate guests.
Yeah, and corporate entertainment is a big part of it. You know, looking at the additions that Ballybrit have added on over the last few years, like it's one of the most finest stadiums, I would say, throughout Europe. And they keep developing it, which is great to see. So they don't rest on their laurels.
Yeah.
And if you watch the crowds that come to Galway, I know there's some great festivals on, Punchestown, Leopardstown, etc. But Galway Racing Festival, there's something special about it for that particular week.
And it's a massive benefit to the local economy, isn't it? I think it's 58 million. It's been estimated that's what
it's huge, Don, because
in.
even if you look at the way people plan their holidays, so some people will finish up at the end of July and book their holidays to head to the Galway Races. So all the work gets done in the month of July, but that week of the Galway Races is sacrosanct, right? We're going to Galway Races, that's it, we're down for the week.
Yeah.
You will not get a B&B, a hotel room, even a camper van in Galway for race week. The pubs, the restaurants, the fun fair back here in Salt Hill, everyone benefits from it.
Yeah.
And again, down through the years, like it's always been fun filled. There's never been any serious incidents or anything like that, you know, that's put a damper on Galway Festival. It's
there's a great atmosphere around the place.
it's always
isn't it?
very friendly.
Yeah.
And you will hear the great stories told of, you know, some of the famous watering holes for the jockeys. The hole in the wall, you'll hear about this gold ticket tip for a horse. The same when we were younger, there was the Connemara Coast Hotel, there was the Ardalawn Hotel or the Park House. And if the tip came from there, because that's where most of the owners and trainers were staying, it was considered gold. This is a sure bet. But unfortunately, Don, a lot of them went AWOL as well.
They're very sure bet that go that way. Yeah, and so last year then, like how was last year for you?
Last year was different, I suppose, with COVID and everything. It was strange. I think strange, a little bit eerie. It wasn't
not able to go to the races for starters.
No, it was, but even, I think people were tired,
Yeah.
maybe people were still concerned, people were scared, people were nervous. So there was a lot of economic uncertainty. So I think people kept their hands in their pockets last year. I think people stayed away from crowds last year. So it wasn't the racing festival as we know it.
Yeah, and then this year then, is there more of a sense of optimism around?
There'll be some restricted attendance at the Ballybrit meeting, but I think just as down through the years, people are still going to travel, but they may decide to holiday out in Clifton or stay in Salt Hill and maybe just be careful around crowds, but we still expect them to come.
The road to the 2021 Galway Festival has had its share of turns and twists for CEO Michael Maloney.
You know, it was all new to us that at that time last year. Racing had been back up and running, you know, for a couple of weeks at that stage, but a lot of people still hadn't been to a race meeting. And you know, I think on the Monday it was interesting. There was still an air of anticipation around. I think people thought, you know, that there was going to be something different because it was the Galway Festival, but unfortunately it wasn't, and it was still, you know, very surreal, very quiet. You know, so when you see the big winners coming in, and you know there's no one there to welcome them in, it's just you know, it's hard on them. It's tough on the owners because I suppose they've put all their effort into, you know, having horses. You know, they keep the industry going in terms of their commitment to it, and you know, from them not to be there to have a winner in somewhere like Galway is, you know, it's a horrible position to be in. Thankfully, that bit is, you know, back up and running, and you know, we'll whatever happens this year, we'll see the owners here, and it's just it's amazing to have those back. We've been very fortunate over the last couple of years to have, you know, great quality as well. You know, I suppose that's testament to a couple of things. Well, firstly, the prize money, you know, which is always been supported by all our local partners and by Horse Racing Ireland, and you know, we are lucky to have, you know, some big prize money. Again, this year we're looking at it in terms of we've prize money of over 1.8 million, which is a big increase in terms of even last year. The Galway Plate and the Galway Hurdle were 250,000 this year, up 50,000 euros, and every other day then the feature race is worth 100,000 euros, which is you know, a big increase as well. So you know, we are very fortunate that we have that prize money, and I think that, you know, that brings the quality, and then aside from that, I think it's the quality of the track. And you know, in fairness, you're looking out at it probably here in the background, and it's in great condition. You know, Jerry Broderick and his team, you know, always have it in fantastic condition, and we've done some work on the track this year as well in terms of we put in some drainage. So that started at the end of March, beginning of April. I suppose the majority of the track was drained back in 2012, 2013, which made a great improvement to the quality of the surface, and the surface, I suppose, has been improving ever since, and it's trying to give that consistency to the surface right around. So
yeah, and like it's a fair undertaking, isn't it? Because there are 52 races spread out over 7 days, so there's like it's not by accident that the track gets managed, and I suppose different rail movements and so on in order to get from Monday to Sunday?
Yeah, it is. It's people don't realise it because Galway is actually a short circuit first of all, and you're just about 9 furlongs around, and then it's narrow in spots as well. So I suppose there's a couple of areas that are narrow coming up the home straight, heading down around the 7 furlong mark. And to get 7 days and that number of tracks is certainly measured to the inch to get us through that. So there's numerous rail movements throughout the week, which I suppose people don't realise that especially from outside the racing industry, they turn up and they just assume the horses are running along the same track again today. But I think we move it 4 times during the week, and then we have the chase course as well. And obviously the other side of it is obviously the mixed cards as well, which makes it that little bit harder. So when you're mixing flat and jump, it's hard to get it right to suit everybody. We have to aim to suit the vast majority, and we want, especially for jumping ground, we want safe jumping ground, and as I said, it's suitable to most people, and I think we certainly please a lot, hopefully.
Yeah, and it's remarkable. All 52 races are sponsored, and you have all your partners back, your long-term partners, and also this year for the first time you have the Pat Smullen Perpetual Trophy for the leading flat rider. Yeah,
it's been an incredible year, I suppose, coming off 2020 and where businesses were. It was, in terms of looking at sponsors and partners, it certainly, there was a concern in terms of where we would be going, and we went out to all our partners this year in terms of where we were going, not only for this year but into the future. And I suppose we want to rebuild the festival, and every single partner that we have was just jumping to get back on board and to be as part of it in terms of long-term agreements. So it's incredible. I suppose for the next really 2-3 years there is no sponsorship available at the summer festival, and that's a privileged position to be in, but also it gives us, I suppose, the strength and the confidence to rebuild the festival, and to get people back, and we can focus on 2022 with a bit of certainty. Obviously the Rooney family sponsor the leading jockey championship for both flat and national hunt, and this year we've introduced a perpetual trophy in memory of Pat for the leading flat jockey rider, and I think it'll be really well received, and it'll just be something nice to have to remember Pat here for years to come.
With the numbers of people who can attend the Galway races this year limited once again, Sales and Marketing Manager Sinead Cassidy has been busy innovating.
It's been a tricky year, but actually a really good year because we've learned a lot. As a brand, within the last 12 months, we've had a lot of time to think and really look at all our brand itself and our market. So for us, we decided that we would see it as an opportunity to stretch and grow our brand and deepen our engagement with our fans, and thankfully I think we've done that. Because
last year when you weren't allowed anybody in through the gates, it must have been a totally different lead up to the Galway races last year for you in terms of promoting it or getting people engaged.
It was, we have a great CEO in Michael Maloney, so with him he was a great leader, so it was a case of leading when you should and follow when you could. So there was a lot of settling down, getting things at home in terms of working from home, getting things organised within your own home environment, and then cracking on with the Galway races. We were very fortunate in that a lot of global sporting events were live, albeit behind closed doors. So when we were planning, we got to see what the likes of NFL were doing, what Premiership football were doing, so we could learn from them and best practice, and then bring some of that back here to Ballybrit and roll it out.
And was it weird being here and watching racing going on and nobody here?
I'll never forget it. I remember the Tote Galway plate and Michael and I in the parade ring, and the winning horse come in, and just the two of us clapping and the echo of the clap, and I thought, I never ever want this feeling again. You really miss the roar of the crowd. We've such passionate, loyal fans here in Galway. It's the Mecca, it's the Mehel. People come home from all over the world for that 1 week to enjoy great racing, but also it's the social aspect, People love coming here. You meet people you haven't seen in a year. You meet new friends, meet new friends and make old friends. So yeah, it was very different, but it was also a challenge, and here in Galway we love a challenge. So what we've done is the last 12 months has really allowed us to beef up our social media and our digital marketing, that side of the business. So we've all that ready, planned, banked, ready to roll. What we want is for those that are here to enjoy the magic that is Galway races, but also to have all those other fans that are at home that can't get here. We want our social media platforms to be that little bit of, to have a sprinkle of magic on them too, so when they tune in, they have some form of connection with the brand. So we're rolling out a number of new initiatives, and again, we're always looking at best practice globally, like I mentioned, So this year we are doing a dedicated WhatsApp phone line. That'll be live race week, where you can send in your video messages of support or your text messages of support to everyone here at the racecourse. That'll go out on all social and on our CCTV here at the track. We're doing things like a really fun campaign for families. It's called Funny Bones, where we have up and coming Donn McCleans, up and coming racing reporters, and they'll be interviewing via Zoom the stars of racing, but not asking them the normal questions. So there's a lot of fun in that. It's almost like your young Ant and Dec from Saturday Night Takeaway. We're doing things like, we're really dialing up the whole leading jockey and trainer championship, and you know, we've announced a very special Pat Mullen Perpetual Trophy, so that's a project very close to our heart here in Galway. Then we've recently announced a collaboration with the Irish Horse Welfare Trust, so we're very passionate about that, and we've an iDonate page that's live now, and we're looking to raise money for them because they are Ireland's longest equine charity, specifically for the thoroughbred horse. So we had a visit to them, and we're excited about that. And we also have things like Virtual Ladies Day for those that love the glamour and the social element of the races. So stay tuned to our social media. We have lots going on.
Galway Week is a busy week for the Connacht Hotel Group, and their social media manager, Kieran O'Malley, tells us why.
There's 9 properties in the group, so I oversee all the content creation and the management of the 50 channels that we have now across TikTok, Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, and all of those. So I'm constantly updating it and making people aware of what's going on in the properties, and you know, it's a general promotion and PR for the group.
And Galway Race Week, obviously your job becomes a little bit busier at this time of year, does it?
Exactly. I suppose a lot of people say obviously it's my favourite week of the year, but a lot of people say it's like my Christmas. So we're out there at the track, there's so much fun, such a buzz going on between all the properties, you know, people coming in, enjoying themselves, having great fun in the place, and then of course out at the track, it's incredible. We have a brilliant relationship with the racecourse, so we'll be creating content during the year and supporting each other through our social channels. They have an amazing marketing team out there, but it's an incredible week, and there's so much going on. It's such a buzz. I'm in a suit for the week, going to all the different parties and events and stuff like that. It's one of the perks of the job.
And Monday evening, of course, that's your big night. That's the Connacht Hotel.
So that's it, and we're fully fresh that evening as well. So it's a great time to have it. So yeah, no, it's been brilliant. There's been some great winners the last few years. It's been an amazing race, like all the amateurs want to win, I guess. But it's brilliant for the group. The hospitality community in Galway is excellent. We all come together, and it's a lovely little celebration. We're all excited for the week. You know, normally it'd be like, are you going racing? Or are you all ready for the races? In the build up to it, and everyone just meets each other. There's such a lovely buzz, and we're all excited for the week ahead then. Of
course, last year was a wee bit different to most years.
Yeah, it was so surreal. I was actually the only one up there. I was up there as a sponsor from the group, so it was amazing to see it. But it's a credit to the Galway Races how they managed to keep it going. Their online presence was phenomenal. The TV coverage, of course, was brilliant as well. So you know, it was absolutely, you know, different, and hopefully that this year is bigger and then we get back to some kind of normal next year. But you know, they've kept it going. There's still great momentum with it. There's still such brilliant support. People are really positive about the Galway Races, and it's kind of almost been a marker this year that people have been looking forward to. Hopefully we'll be getting back to some kind of normal for the races. So that's how we don't need a calendar in Galway. It's all about the races, and then it's winter after that.
Is the build up this year, is it still that sense of anticipation?
Yeah, there's still a buzz. I mean, there's uncertainty, absolutely, but people are still really looking forward to it, and it is, I suppose, it's something positive to look forward to. We haven't had something like that around here this year so far, so it's like a light at the end of the tunnel almost. So people are really excited. I mean, it does bring so much to the community, and it's a marker in the calendar that we know good times are coming back, and it's just such. The country is all looking to Galway that week, and it shows the best of the city, the best of the county, and it's just really positive for everyone in the community. So businesses are gearing up, sports fans are gearing up. You know, it should be a great week and something to look forward to.
Yeah. And yourself, like you're obviously into racing yourself. Like you've been going to the Galway Races, I'm sure, for many a year. Do you have a lasting memory of Galway?
I mean, the social side of it for me is probably the best dress competitions and the friends I've made up there. There's been some amazing winners as well. I mean, last year was unique in the fact that I got to meet a lot of the jockeys and the trainers and stuff like that and get up close and personal with them. But it's just been, I suppose, in the last few years, through my job, I've got to meet so many amazing people up there, and it's been such an incredible week. But you know, seeing, I suppose, Princess Zoe is the standout race, you know, in terms of our sponsorship and stuff like that. So that was one of the, you know, lasting memories that I have from the course.
Yeah, and, like, she was amazing. And then she went on and won a Group 1 race in France after that.
See, that's it. Like, I wouldn't have a huge knowledge, but then, you know, you remember that race, and then to go and see it, and you know, remember it with the Connacht Total colours, and then to go on and win that, have that incredible win. It just, you know, it was lovely for the group, I suppose, and you know, our mentions across social media and different stuff like that, and the memories of that day really added to it.
From direct provision to Miss Galway 2021, the journey from Masters graduate Pamela Uba to this point in her life has been fascinating. Pamela, you're the reigning Miss Galway. How does one become Miss Galway?
Well, I entered last year actually, so I was Miss Galway 2020. I entered in March, and it was the last day of applications, and it was actually the day I found out my citizenship was approved, which is one of the criteria. You have to be an Irish citizen to take part, and I was like, yes, I'm doing this now. I always wanted to enter Miss Ireland ever since watching Tierna Slevin won Miss Galway. I forget what year it was, but I was working in the bar where it was all being held.
Right.
And I went to give a glass of water to one of the judges, and she thought I was the next contestant, and I was just like, no. And she encouraged me to like join, and so I always thought about it. So, and luckily now, look at me.
Look at you, yeah, brilliant. And so when is the Miss? You're the Galway representative now for Miss Ireland.
Yes.
Next month, is it?
So Miss Ireland was postponed last year due to COVID, so it's now going to be on the 5th of September at Kahlua Castle, and there's 30 contestants, and I'm going to be one of the representatives for Galway.
Yeah, okay, so fingers crossed.
Yeah.
And what are your responsibilities as Miss Galway now?
So, like, I think Miss Galway is more like an ambassadorship to, like, you know, help your community in any way you can. And I suppose coming from my perspective, I'm all about like inclusion and representation of all sorts of people. I'm not the stereotypical person as well. I'm not a like tall, skinny model. You know, I'm what everyone looks like. And I suppose coming from an immigrant's point of view, I'm trying to help others that look like me and are from different places feel that yes, this can happen for you too. Particularly those that were in my situation.
Because you were in direct provision, weren't you?
Yeah, so I grew up in direct provision. That's how I started in Ireland. I came here when I was 7. And, you know, growing up, it's a very strange place to be because you're kind of in the hands of what the government says. In my case, I couldn't really go to college unless I paid international fees. You know, it becomes very difficult and depressing because once you reach a certain age, you start to wonder, oh, is this all that I have for my life? But for me, and especially with the help of my mom, she really helped me to, like, you know, not be pulled into this like state of depression. She really pushed me to go for everything I wanted, and with her help, I was able to go to college.
So you raised the €9,000 to pay the fees to start off in college, yeah?
Yeah.
Wow.
And luckily it was the end of that year that we got our residency, so I was treated as a normal student after that. So
yeah, so you studied medical science, that's your degree?
Yeah, I studied medical science, so I'm a qualified medical scientist working at the University Hospital here in Galway, and I've been working there 4 years now, I think, yeah, and I've completed my master's in Trinity College. I just handed in my thesis 2 weeks ago.
Brilliant. So done with that now, yeah.
Yeah.
What was your master's in?
Clinical chemistry. So it's more like a specialist area for my degree. So I work in the biochemistry lab, but as a medical scientist, I can work in like multiple labs like micro and histology and hematology. But my focus was biochemistry because I really liked chemistry as a kid growing up. So I just wanted to like really specialize myself in that area. And as you know, this year with the pandemic, the labs really got highlighted for the work that we do.
You've been working in Galway University Hospital during the pandemic. What's that been like?
It was a very difficult time. It was very different anyways. Like the COVID, it just changed a lot of the ways that we did things. But at the same time, I think we just only improved on how we do things as a whole. Like all the labs were all coordinated together, implementing tests and validating tests on the machines. That, you know, that takes a lot of time and effort, and I feel like my colleagues really pulled in that effort to be able to manage this pandemic.
And of course, Galway Racecourse, it's a place now where people are going to get their vaccinations to.
Yes, it's very different now to when I was there last. So yeah, the racecourse has now turned into a little vaccination centre, but I'm hoping it goes back to its original roots, where you have loads of people there with all the vibrant colours and all the fashion and the racing going on.
Thanks to everybody involved in this week's This Racing Life, a Galway special. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you again soon.